Web3, Unpacking Regulations and Optimism for Crypto's Future. Crypto Regulatory Landscape in Europe.
Hi everybody. So you could have seen what we're going to discuss today, primarily regulation, which I think it's a very essential topic to discuss, especially these days. First, I'll let everybody in the panel introduce themselves. I'll go first. So my name is Meiran Shtibel. I work as an Associate General Counsel at Fireblocks. I'm dealing primarily with product and regulatory affairs, in particular in the EMEA region.
So my name is Kristjan. I came from Croatia, and I'm mostly my background is blockchain engineering. But regarding the regulations, I was involved in creating the EU-based crypto regulated exchange and creating the VC funds and regulated VC funds to invest in the crypto and the custodial infrastructure.
Nice. I'm Bob Reid, CEO of Everest. We were one of the first 10 licensed VASPs in Malta. Also, I realized we're the only platform in the world that does deduplicated human identity with a wallet. So that thing Elon Musk wants to solve with Twitter and Vitalik's been after of like human and unique, we did that.
Kafiabadi. I'm a director at Kroll in Gibraltar, and I advise on compliance and regulation to firms. I'm here on behalf of SumSub. I sit on their advisory board, and they provide KYC, KYT, AML, for verification of address and all manners compliance.
Hello everybody, I'm Sébastien Martin. I'm from France, and I'm the co-founder and chairman of Red Square. Red Square is helping blockchain projects to, I would say, build their projects on the regulatory side, tech and cyber side, and also we help investors to secure their investments, and we also do public influence towards European regulator and European policymakers.
Thank you. So we have a very interesting panel today, and each of you are arriving from a different jurisdiction. If you can address each to the regulatory or lack of regulatory scheme in your jurisdiction, at least the jurisdiction you're operating in.
I'm involved mostly with European Union regulations, so MiTA, which will come. But I have worked with the FINMA, and I must say that all the best about the FINMA regulations, where, for example, we have a decentralized autonomous organization completely regulated. So token holders actually get the equity shares of the company. But on the other side, what I see as a downfall of regulations and regulators is that we as an industry didn't approach them in a manner we should. So we do not educate them well enough so they can deliver the right legal framework. So from MiTA, it's like I see a lot of benefits there, like removing the scams in a manner of signing the white paper so that you have someone responsible to prosecute if you if you did a lot of like promises there and you didn't deliver. So that's something what I see as a good stuff. The second stuff, what I see as, let's say, something what needs more clarification is the e-money, which they are mentioning all the time, which is actually the stable coins. But that needs to be like clarified. What are the ways in the operation? Is that like traditional banking procedures there, or we can use something different and elevated models?
Sure. So again, forgive the American accent, we're actually Maltese corporation. Again, we're licensed here. I found the VFA regime of Malta to be the most comprehensive, bar none, best regulations I've seen in the world. Made New York look silly, better than the rest of the US, better than the rest of Europe. If you look at what MiCA is, it's about an 80 to 90% overlap, which means the 10 or 15 of us, so Crypto.com, FalconX, us, we effectively will be grandfathered into MiCA. And it's actually been, so as arduous as it was to get licensed here, it's a little bit of a badge of honor. It also means like we had to be deadly serious, right? if anyone's not aware of this, like we'll get into this with DeFi and compliance, like you can't mess up, right? Like it means they'll prevent you from getting on planes and put you in jail. So like, given the existing environments of getting licensed in the Bahamas, for example, not to name names, we'll get there.
Soon, stay tuned.
Yeah, so look, I've been really happy with incredibly hard but fair. You can see as MiCA gets adopted and the frameworks it happens, it was really good regulation, and they've been actually really nice regulators to work with. They've been productive with us. So,
I'll talk about two different jurisdictions, if I may, both European, because I'm originally from the UK. And UK, as much as I become an ex-regulator myself, and not on the crypto side, admittedly, and kind of hands up there, because the UK regulator has really missed a step when it comes to crypto asset regulation. They issued a policy statement in 2019, which basically said, well, we think that most of crypto is already regulated because it's either going to fall under regulated order, activity order, or it's going to fall under MiFID, or it's going to fall under PSR, and we're not going to really bother with any of it. So what are we going to do? Well, Europe is looking at wholesale regulation. We're just going to look at stablecoin used as payment for transactions, which I think is a little bit of a backwards way of looking at it, because you're not future-proofing yourself. Admittedly, a lot of people are saying, well, this is in part because UK is trying to attract business, but it becomes a bit of a race to the bottom. And the second justification people have given for it is that UK wants to see what's going to happen with MiCA, because a lot of the industry is saying it's a little bit rushed, it's a little bit kind of needs more consultation and thinking around. So they want to see how it operates in practice, and then kind of almost like Apple introduce the same thing, but a little bit better and shinier than what Android has done. By contrast, and this is where Bob and I were having an interesting discussion about Gibraltar versus Malta, because I have made this comment time and time again. If you want a pan-European, go to Malta. If you want slightly more sort of global consideration, where you've got UK access, you've got European access, until there is some kind of an equivalence, go to Gibraltar. Again, arduous. Only about a dozen or so licenses have ever been given. But those licenses come almost just like Malta, with a gold plate. Here it is, your badge of honor. You've got everything. You went through a 12 to 18-month process to actually get that license in the first place. And the regulation is, as opposed to being very rules-based, it's principles-based. 10 principles. Anyone here who's interested in regulation, I would strongly recommend. It's one page. Go read it. It's called Financial Services. What's the specific name? 2020 regulation on crypto assets. 10 facts that if every single provider in crypto asset, VASP, CASP, whatever you want to call them, if they adhere to these, they would be fantastic for the market in general.
On my side, I will speak about France. So in France, we have a registration process. So it's not a kind of agreement per se at the moment. You can ask for an agreement, but at the moment, everybody chooses the registration because it's a bit more easy process, even if it's still, I would say, a pretty challenging path. We have to be honest on this. So mainly, the focus point of the French regulation is the services provided by the crypto asset service provider. So if you're, for example, selling and buying, for example, crypto for fiat, you have to be on, especially if you're selling or buying it towards French retails or French corporates, you need to be registered in France. And so this is the French approach. Maybe I can ask, I would say a word regarding the German regulation, because I have this Franco-German background. In Germany, I would say the focus point is a bit different, because in Germany, basically, the regulator would check if the project is custodial or non-custodial. And this is I would say, the difference mainly between both countries. Regarding the MiCA, one of the, I would say, point of this regulation is that it will be based on the service provided by the crypto asset service provider. On this, I would say is what one I would say as the approach.
Okay, so thank you. I am curious, though, in understanding what is a good legislation versus bad legislation, because I think that in a lot of cases it's a matter of perception. Is it a rigid regime or a moderate regime? And I think we all should take also into account that this legislation is financial specific to the crypto, and it's a piece within a lot of moving pieces. But we'll touch it at the end. Now we are speaking about optimism for the future and the regulatory landscape, but I think it will be interesting to speak about the failures. Most recently, the FTX case. So I do want to hear your perception on that.
So first, what I want to say, everybody in the room needs to understand there is no like DeFi, we need to go DeFi. DeFi get hacked and they lost almost same amount in 2021 like FTX lost. FTX case was not about centralized exchanges. FTX case is about let's say, people who want to play banks, who want to like, okay, this sounds cool, we can do whatever we want and we will not get any consequences. That's not going that way because people are saying FTX went like gambling on the people's money. I'm asking everybody in the room what banks are doing for the most than 50th or century. They do the same, but they are liquid because you know why? They know how to do it. So there is financial instrument where you can play with the people's money and still not make everything fails.
Right, but I mean, we've been talking about this. It's if they're European and American and they're regulated and they go out and play banks, it's because they've been regulated as a bank. So one of the big takeaways is like, going back to good gold-plated standard regulations.
That's it.
You want to go to the Bahamas, you don't know if you're insured, if the
That's
banks
it.
That's it.
That's the problem because they choose it on purpose to go to Bahamas, and people like, oh, they failed. No shit, Sherlock, if I need to say it like that, you know what I mean?
Regulatory arbitrage has existed as long as time has. And there have been many, again, we've been talking about this earlier, you don't go to Malta or Gibraltar or a well-regulated jurisdiction if you want to do something dodgy or you want to play fast and loose. You specifically go to the Seychelles or the Bahamas because you want to get $2,000 license done, and I can wash my hands of it. Now, to the specific question on FTX, large failures are not unusual. They happen. If Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns can fail, of course FTX can fail. It's nothing to be scared of just because it doesn't mean DeFi is bad, it doesn't mean crypto is automatically bad. It just means you need to have an infrastructure, systems and controls, governance in place, risk controls, and guess what? This is what a well-regulated jurisdiction expects of you before they give you that gold-plated license. Have a DLT license that you have.
I guess like we were the first actually to ever integrate FTX's APIs. I had consumers' funds there, right? Not much because we were literally just doing transfer in and out. Most of the team, a little bit in there, at least the team I dealt with, like they were good people trying to do good things. That said, going back to the unregulated Bahamian regulations that don't kind of exist, when you invest in a place like that, it has to come with a risk factor. Walk in with your eyes open.
So I just want to add before that risk management and risk control was the biggest problem within the FTX and everybody who fails in crypto, because currently we all want to earn money in crypto. Nobody wants to do those long-term projects with the procedures and methodology which drains you out, you know, and that's actually something what needs to be challenged.
Also, at one point, regarding regulation, I think what we can learn about also the FTX case is that the entry gate is regulated in crypto, but I think once a project is in life, I think the regulation needs to improve. Once, for example, we have the funds of customers, which process should we take in place? I think this is at the moment not so regulated, and I think that's what also should be improved in the coming time. And I hope that in the MiCA 2 perspective, this will come into force.
Before Mika's come in,
Yeah, he already has it.
Inevitable, but and can I just add one final point? Apologies, I know we're running short on time, but bear in mind that even with all of that, you still will never have 100% liquidity because that's the only way you can function. So if you get a run, which ultimately what sank FTX was a run, simple as that. There is no way of coping with that. So you need to have enough resilience to make sure that people don't lose everything and have a kind of orderly wind down.
Yeah, our time is up, but maybe we can steal a few more minutes? Okay. Okay, because it's a very interesting topic. And yes, a scheme is a scheme, and fraud you can find anywhere, even with a strong supervisory authority, such as the Wirecard scandal. It was a supervised bank under Buffin. So things like that happened. We will not be able to stop them, probably. So if a young crypto company would approach any of you and you needed to choose one advice in the subject matter of this panel, what would be that advice?
Oh, definitely, from my perspective, first we're gonna be like, understand all three pillars of your company, which means technical, business model, and regulations. And they all need to be dancing like an orchestra is playing. If you don't understand, then don't start. Or at least if you don't have that on the paper to see what you are challenges, don't start. That's the first challenge to solve.
I can tell you the one I continue to run into, and again, we're pretty deep into compliance for DeFi. And so like, as Sébastien was mentioning, like MiCA 2.0 will actually force DeFi to be licensed. It doesn't mean that they're not obligated to do the, if you will, a compliance suite right now, right? Which is identity verification, KYC, ongoing monitoring, risk rating of transactions, reporting. Like they're obligated to do these things right now. And so I'm talking to all these DeFi guys and they want to do like a green check mark of a KYC on a wallet and they think that's going to actually be okay. Sorry, there's a long-winded way of saying compliance is a full suite and set of procedures, policies, etc. And they better know all of that and don't think that a little green check mark from a DID, a soul-bound token, or a zero-knowledge proof is going to work. Yeah. It's just not. Like, they're going to go to jail.
I know that's a great question, and I'm struggling to think of one, so I'll give you two instead. One, strong foundation.
I'm joking, you can do two.
Strong foundation. I'm
gave
almost
you two.
repeating but what Kristjan was saying. Strong foundation is what will help you develop on that. If your foundation is weak, if you haven't got that initial thinking in place, you might expand, but you will ultimately fall. And the second bit, which is somewhat linked, is the same as your business model. Regulation and compliance is not about form, it's about substance. Understanding your product, understanding your customer, understanding where the risks fall and how to mitigate that. That's not about having a suite of paper that you're just going to buy off the shelf from some consultant. Here you go, my policy is there. No, you actually need to think about these things and understand them. And it comes back to the same, that's how you build that strong foundation of understanding your business and your regulatory landscape.
I think on my side, I will do a bridge between what all you said, guys. I think it will be like the roadmap. Legal and compliance roadmap to me is key. And of course, like here, the regulatory step, of course, are really important.